In this video, I want to show you two mistakes done by new React developers. The reason why I wanted to show this, so I was doing this code review and this component is from an actual React project. This is not an toy project or a project that created for learning React. So this is an actual project done by an experienced developer. So the first mistake done by new developers is thinking that set state is mutate in the actual state. Take a look at this hide div and think about this set hide and set these two calls. Now what's the problem with this? And the developer who called this, he was thinking that maybe after calling the set hide, he might see the latest value he just set to the state. So basically, and when we start, when we initially render this component, a hide value is true, and then let's say this function get called, and so this line get executed. So in this case we set the hide value to be false, and then here we console log. And if you are a beginner in React, you might expect to see the value false here, but actually it's going to render, it's going to log true. To explain that, let me show a diagram. So by the way, this is what the UI of that component looks like, and so this is what I want to show you. Think about this state. Okay, now this is our component, React component, which is the resume component. When React render this component for the first time, it is going to call this component. So basically it's going to call this function. This is just a function, right? So React is going to call this somewhere inside the React code, and our function or our component get executed. So for the first time, it should be true here. For the first time, its value is true, and we are using useState true. So in the state is located somewhere outside the component. So in the state, for the first time, React is going to get this initial value we passed to the useState and stored it as the current state, and then it is returned as the first item in this array, and which we named here as hide. So basically this time the hide value, variable hide, is going to hold the value true. And then what we do here, we call set hide. We are going to call set hide with a new value which is false. It's not going to mutate here. Instead, it's going to put into this into a queue like this, and then it's going to schedule an update to do later. So now what happened, React sees this and it sees that it has to re-render again. So React start to re-render. So what happened while re-rendering, React is going to call the React component again, which is going to call resume component again, and this time rendering process is already processed this queue and updated the state to false. Now what happened when we when React call this time useState is referred to false. Here it should be true. Now remember, the second time we call useState again with a true value, but since our state already got an value, React is going to ignore the value we passed to useState. It's only going to use in the initial rendering only. Now state is holding the value false, so this time it's going to get value false. Now our component see that hide value is false. So now you should understand why this is not working, because this hide div is within this let's say we initially render it, so it is inside here. So hide div is in here, and we call set hide, which schedule an update, and then we console log the hide, which in this case true. So that's why it's going to refer to the true instead of false. So this is a one mistake done by most of the React developers, most of the new React developers, and I saw this in another place as well in here. So when this button get clicked and this state is getting updated, and as soon as this code logs the value of that state, and probably the developer was expected to see true. So this is the first mistake that I want to point you out. So the next issue that I want to point out is the incorrect usage of useEffect. To understand that, let me explain the user interface. So basically we have this search bar and then some advanced filters. Basically they are also text fields with some advanced options to send to the API. So it get and finally we have two buttons which do the same thing. I'm not sure why there's two buttons. And just send the same request, and then it gets some array of data from the API and render this table. If I go back to the code, and when I was reviewing this, I couldn't find any network request that sent to fetch this data. Well, we have this state that track the current filters, but I couldn't find any network request. This is the only one. It is actually a useless one. And if I show you that it said job title list here, but the state is never been used, so it's a useless one. This is can be removed. And so there was no network request sent to get the data, but when I run the project, I could see the actual data being rendered on the table. So I scrolled down here and found out that the table was in another component, and that component accept the filters as an prop. So what I did, I just navigate to the resume table. Now if I check here, here's the network request that we sent to get the data. If you noticed here, the get resume list is called in an useEffect. The useEffect get invoked again whenever the page variable or page state get updated, or whenever the filters get updated. If I go back to the parent component, how does filters get updated? The only way in this code the filters get updated from this on-click event handler. So whenever we call change filters in here, and then just down here as well, change filters, and whenever we call this change filter, if I go to here, it actually update the filter state. So we exactly know when it is going to update it. We don't need an useEffect. We know when it is going to update it. So basically all we have to do is get the new list from the API here. This is the only way the filters get updated, and we exactly know when this change filter is going to called. It is going to call whenever the user types on the text fields. So we don't need an unnecessary useEffect to run this. This is the place that we need to fetch data, and we can remove this, and instead of calling get resume list here, we know exactly when to call this, because we need to call get resume list whenever the user change the stuff, and when the user change the stuff, the event handler is getting been invoked, and within the event handler we can get the new data. So useEffect, and why I'm telling that, because useEffect and this one is causing an unnecessary re-render, because let's say we update an filter. So that update caused this component to re-render. Whenever this is getting re-rendered, we get the new filters, and this function body get executed, and it sees this useEffect. It's not going to execute anything inside here yet, and it's going to complete all the render process. It's going to render, and it's going to return everything, and it's going to complete the render process. And finally, then React is going to start to invoke useEffects. So this is the time. So it's already completed the one cycle of re-render without changing anything. And now get resume list is going to called again, and which we do some bunch of state updates. And finally, we update the resume list. And this is the re-render triggered by this set resume list actually update the table, because this is the one that actually update the data. We can remove that unnecessary re-render by invoking this get resume list within the event handler. So we have to remove this useEffect. Now the next problem is, if I remove this, how we can execute in here, because we don't have event handlers are in the parent component. Well, it's happened because of the bad component design. And if you see that resume table is only responsible for rendering and showing the data, it is not responsible for fetching the data, because the filters are in the parent component. So filters are the main properties or the configuration to get the data. So this get resume list should be in the parent component along with the filters, so that when the filters get changed, we call the get resume list. Instead of passing filter here, we have to pass data. So now the table can use this data and render it on the UI. So those are the two issues that I wanted to point you out, and there are a bunch of other issues that are not especially related to unique to React, but some of them are more common. Doesn't matter whether you are even writing JavaScript. If you are working on another language as well. Just don't keep these unused variables, unused variables and unused import statements. And even this here, look at that, this code set is loading, and the is loading is not even used, but set is loading is used in here 2 times, which causes 2 unnecessary renders. Now obviously it is and probably the developer was trying to add some spinner or loader, but it was not used. So either we have to add the spinner to show while the data is getting loaded. So either we have to add an spinner to improve the user experience, or otherwise we don't need this. If it is not necessary, just remove this. This is just introducing 2 unnecessary re-renders because of this call. And the next thing is this one, get job title, and came out to be that this state is not even used. So this is an unnecessary network request. So this should be also not used, which means we should not use this useEffect as well. And he has, instead of writing this long conditional statement, just all we have to do is just write this is all we have to do. So there are a bunch of issues like that in this code. So that's all I wanted to mention is that 2 main issues, that is set state does not mutate this state, and the bad usage of useEffect. And I hope this video helped you to learn something about React. So thank you for watching.